What happens when a tech CEO's perfect life built on lies collides with the woman he thought he destroyed? Maya Chen Rodriguez discovered her husband's affair with a beauty queen through forgotten emails on his laptop. But that was just the beginning. Julian didn't just cheat, he systematically stole her ideas, sabotaged her career, and tried to erase her from the industry they built together. What Julian didn't know, his beauty queen fiancée was hiding explosive secrets, and Maya was about to become more powerful than he ever imagined. This is the true story of betrayal, revenge, and the most epic comeback in Silicon Valley history. If you love stories where the underdog wins, hit that like button and subscribe, because this journey will leave you speechless. Let's dive in. Maya Chen Rodriguez stared at the laptop screen, her coffee growing cold in her trembling hands as the morning light filtered through the floor-to-ceiling windows of their Palo Alto penthouse. The email thread was still open from when Julian had rushed out that morning, forgetting to close his computer in his haste to catch his flight to Vegas for the annual tech summit. Re-private photos, Scarlett D. Her heart hammered against her ribs as she scrolled through months of messages, each one a knife twist in her chest. Photos of Julian with a stunning blonde woman in hotel rooms draped in luxury, at exclusive restaurants she'd never heard of, on private jets with champagne flutes raised in celebration. The timestamps showed these weren't recent indiscretions. They went back 8 months. 8 long months while Maya was going through her third round of fertility treatments, injecting herself with hormones that made her cry at breakfast commercials. The woman was breathtaking in that effortless way that spoke of excellent genetics and unlimited resources. 24 years old, according to her Miss Universe bio that Julian had bookmarked like some lovesick teenager. Scarlett Divine, from Texas. Honey blonde hair that caught sunlight like spun gold, legs that went on for miles, and the kind of perfect smile that graced magazine covers and launched $1,000 endorsement deals. Maya's hands shook as she opened another folder labeled Business Partnership SD. Her breath caught as financial documents filled the screen, revealing the true scope of Julian's deception. He had been funding Scarlett's pageant career to the tune of hundreds of thousands of dollars. Her Beverly Hills apartment, her personal trainer, her nutritionist, her stylist, all paid for by Julian. The amounts were staggering. Money that came from their joint accounts. Money from Black Tech Solutions. The company they'd built together from nothing. The sound of the front door opening made Maya's blood freeze. Julian's voice echoed through their pristine home, bouncing off the designer furniture and custom artwork they'd selected together during happier times. Maya, I forgot my charger. She slammed the laptop shut with such force that her coffee mug rattled, her mind racing through the implications of what she discovered. 3 years of marriage. 5 years together since they'd met at Stanford Business School during a heated debate about market disruption. She'd helped him build Black Tech Solutions from a garage startup into a $50 million company that employed over 200 people. She'd been his strategic brain, his emotional support, his partner in every sense, while he played the charismatic CEO for investors and media. Julian appeared in the kitchen doorway, still devastatingly handsome at 35, despite the moral rot she now knew festered beneath his polished exterior. Dark hair perfectly styled, sharp jawline that had graced Forbes covers, and that confident smile that had first attracted her. Now that smile made her physically ill. "Hey babe," he said casually, grabbing his charger from the counter. "You look pale." Still feeling rough from the hormone treatments, Maya had been recovering from their latest failed fertility attempt, the third miscarriage in 2 years that had left her devastated and questioning everything about her body, her worth, her future. The doctor had said stress was a major factor in their struggles to conceive, and Maya had been blaming herself for months. convinced that her anxiety was somehow sabotaging their chances at parenthood. "I'm fine," she managed, her voice barely above a whisper. Julian kissed her forehead with the same casual affection he'd shown thousands of times, the gesture now feeling like a mockery of their entire relationship. "Good. I'll be back Sunday night. Vegas is going to be crazy, but this conference could open up major funding opportunities. Try to rest while I'm gone. Okay, maybe call Dr. Hoffman if you're still feeling down about the miscarriage." The casual cruelty of his words, referring to the loss of their child as something that was merely affecting her mood, made Maya want to scream, but she nodded and watched him leave, probably to meet Scarlett for a romantic weekend while his wife grieved alone. After the door closed, Maya sat in their pristine kitchen, surrounded by the life they'd built together. The marble countertop she'd chosen after weeks of research. The Italian espresso machine Julian had surprised her with for their second anniversary. The art they'd bought during their European honeymoon, when they'd spent lazy afternoons in Parisian galleries dreaming about their future together. She picked up her phone and called the only person she trusted completely. "Alex Murphy speaking, and this better be good because I was organizing my closet by color and season." "Alex, it's Maya. Can you come over? I need you." Her best friend since Stanford didn't hesitate, the joking tone immediately replaced by concern. "I'm already in my car. What happened? You sound like you've seen a ghost." "Worse," Maya whispered. "I've seen the truth." 20 minutes later, Alex burst through the front door like a hurricane in designer sneakers, his perfectly styled hair slightly mussed from his frantic drive. At 31, Alex was Maya's opposite in every way that mattered. Where she was quiet and analytical, Alex was loud and emotional, wearing his heart on his sleeve and never meeting a feeling he couldn't express in vivid detail. "Okay, spill everything," he demanded, throwing himself onto their white leather sofa. "You sounded like someone had died." Maya showed him the laptop, opening Julian's email threads and watching her best friend's face cycle through shock, horror, and finally, murderous rage as he scrolled through months of evidence. "That absolute piece of human garbage," Alex muttered, his voice getting louder until he was practically shouting. "Maya, honey, this isn't just a casual fling. This is a full-blown relationship with financial components that border on sugar daddy territory." 8 months that I can prove from the emails," Maya said, her voice eerily calm. "Maybe longer. He's been gaslighting me this entire time, making me think our marriage problems were my fault." Alex pulled her into a fierce hug that smelled like expensive cologne and righteous indignation. "You are not broken, Maya Chen Rodriguez. You are perfect exactly as you are. He's the broken one." That night, Maya lay awake in their king-sized bed, staring at the ceiling and processing the complete destruction of everything she'd believed about her life. Julian was probably with Scarlett in some Vegas penthouse, probably laughing about how clueless his wife was. Maya had given up her own career ambitions to support Julian's rise, taken his name, managed his schedule, ghostwritten his speeches. She'd made herself smaller so Julian could shine brighter. No more. The divorce papers arrived on a Tuesday morning that started like any other, delivered by a courier while Maya was still in her silk pajamas, nursing her first cup of coffee and trying to pretend her world hadn't completely imploded. She signed for the thick manila envelope with numb fingers, already knowing what it contained, but still hoping against hope that maybe Julian had come to his senses. Julian hadn't come home from Vegas. Instead, he'd sent a cowardly text message at 2 a.m. "We need to talk when I get back. Things aren't working between us, and I think we both know it's time to make some difficult decisions about our future." Now she held legal documents that made it official. black ink on white paper spelling out the end of everything she'd built her adult life around. Julian Blackwood was divorcing Maya Chen Rodriguez, citing irreconcilable differences in language so cold and clinical it could have been written by a machine. The financial settlement was brutal in its one-sidedness. Despite having built BlackTech's strategic framework and operational systems from the ground up, despite working 18-hour days during the early years when they couldn't afford employees, Maya had never been made an official co-founder. She'd been an employee, nothing more. Her contributions documented only in internal emails that Julian's lawyers had probably already destroyed. The settlement offered her a small severance package, less than what they spent on wine in a typical month, and 30 days to vacate all shared assets. The penthouse, the cars, the vacation home in Napa, even the furniture she'd carefully selected, it all belonged to Julian. Her phone buzzed against the granite countertop, a text from an unknown number with a photo attachment that made her stomach drop. Julian and Scarlett on a red carpet at the Vegas Tech Summit, looking like they'd stepped out of a magazine spread. Julian in a perfectly tailored tuxedo, Scarlett in a stunning silver gown that sparkled under camera flashes. His arm was around her waist possessively, while she gazed up at him adoringly. The caption read, "BlackTech CEO Julian Blackwood debuts new relationship at Vegas Tech Summit with Miss Universe contestant Scarlett Devine. Sources say the couple has been quietly dating for several months." Several months. The timeline made Maya's head spin. If they'd been quietly dating for several months, Julian had been planning this divorce far longer than she'd realized. Maya ran to the bathroom and threw up until there was nothing left, her body rejecting the reality as violently as her mind struggled to process it. Alex found her there an hour later, still sitting on the cold marble floor with her back against the bathtub. "The divorce papers came," she said without looking up. Alex read through the legal documents, his face growing redder with each page. "This is absolutely insane, Maya. You built half that company. Your market analysis strategies are what made them profitable. Your operational systems kept them from imploding during growth phases." "I was never officially a co-founder," Maya said flatly. "Julian always said we'd make it official later, that it was just paperwork. I trusted him completely." "We're fighting this," Alex declared with righteous indignation. "There has to be something we can do. Intellectual property claims, breach of partnership agreements. With what money, he's got the company's entire legal team, plus whatever high-powered divorce attorneys his money can buy. I've got my savings account and a broken heart." Over the next week, Maya watched her life disintegrate with horrifying efficiency. Julian returned from Vegas with moving trucks and professional packers, treating their divorce like a hostile corporate takeover. He was cold, efficient, completely devoid of the warmth that had once made her fall in love with him. "You can stay until the end of the month," he said during one of their few face-to-face conversations, delivered while he supervised the removal of artwork from their walls. "I'll cover utilities until then, but after that, you'll need your own arrangements." Maya watched movers carry away the life they'd built together, furniture they'd chosen during weekend design trips, art they'd collected during romantic European getaways. Even the ridiculously expensive coffee machine that had been her birthday gift. Each disappearing item felt like another piece of her identity being erased. "Julian," she said as he prepared to leave for another rendezvous with Scarlett. "We were together for 5 years, married for 3. Don't I deserve some kind of explanation?" He paused with his hand on their front door, and for a brief moment, Maya thought she saw a flicker of the man she'd fallen in love with, but the moment passed so quickly she might have imagined it. "We grew apart, Maya," he said with a casual shrug that felt like a slap. You became someone I didn't recognize anymore. Always crying, always stressed about getting pregnant, always making everything about your problems instead of focusing on what we were building together. I need a partner who can handle the pressure of success. The words hit her like physical blows, each one carefully chosen to maximize damage. I was stressed because you were cheating on me. I was crying because you made me feel worthless while you built a secret life with another woman. Julian's expression didn't change, remaining as neutral as if they were discussing the weather. I never cheated during our marriage, he said with smooth confidence. Scarlett and I didn't begin our relationship until after I'd already decided to file for divorce. It was such an obvious lie that Maya almost laughed, except nothing about this situation was remotely funny. But Julian had always been gifted at rewriting history to suit his narrative. After he left, Maya sat alone in their increasingly empty living room and cried until she had no tears left. When the tears finally stopped, she did something she hadn't done in years. She opened her laptop and navigated to LinkedIn, staring at her profile that still listed her as Strategic Operations Manager at Black Tech Solutions. With shaking fingers, she began typing, Maya Chen Rodriguez, Independent Strategic Consultant, available for immediate consultation and project-based engagements. She was starting over with nothing but her intelligence, her work ethic, and a burning desire to prove that Julian Blackwood had made the biggest mistake of his life when he decided she was disposable. 6 months after Julian had walked out of their marriage with casual indifference, Maya had managed to build something resembling a life from the rubble of her former existence. Her new one-bedroom apartment in Mountain View was a far cry from their Palo Alto penthouse, with thin walls and a kitchen so small she could barely fit a dining table, but it was hers, paid for with money she'd earned through her own strategic consulting practice. The consulting work had started slowly, almost by accident. Maya had been networking desperately at industry events, trying to rebuild her professional reputation while fighting off waves of panic every time someone asked about her marriage or departure from Black Tech. Most conversations ended awkwardly when people realized she was Julian's ex-wife, their expressions shifting from professional interest to uncomfortable pity. Her first real break came through David Kim, founder of a struggling food delivery app called Quick Bite that was hemorrhaging money and on the verge of bankruptcy. David had known Maya peripherally from the tech scene and was desperate enough to take a chance on a consultant with a complicated history and reasonable rates. QuickBite was a mess when Maya first walked into their cramped offices in a converted San Jose warehouse. 23 employees working on 7 different versions of their app, no clear business model, vendor relationships bleeding money, and a marketing strategy that consisted entirely of hoping their product would somehow go viral. Maya spent her first week simply observing, sitting in meetings and quietly taking notes while the team argued in circles about features without addressing fundamental structural problems killing their business. She watched David try to manage programmers who ignored his directions, marketing specialists who spent budgets on ineffective campaigns, and operations managers who couldn't explain why delivery times were twice as long as competitors. The breakthrough came during a heated meeting about user interface when Maya finally spoke up, "What problem are we actually solving for our customers?" The room went silent as 23 people realized they couldn't answer her question. Maya spent the next 6 hours walking them through strategic analysis that identified their real competitive advantages and a restructuring plan that would transform QuickBite from a generic delivery service into a premium platform specializing in local family-owned restaurants. The restructuring was brutal, but necessary. Maya recommended firing half the development team, consolidating 7 app versions into one streamlined platform, negotiating new vendor contracts that reduced operational costs by 30%, and implementing systems that turned longer delivery times into selling points rather than liabilities. Within 3 months, QuickBite had posted their first profitable quarter since launch. Their user base tripled as food lovers discovered unique restaurants and experienced personalized service that major platforms couldn't provide. The transformation was so dramatic that TechCrunch featured QuickBite in an article about successful startup pivots. Maya Chen Rodriguez didn't just restructure our business model, David told the reporter. She helped us remember why we started this company and gave us tools to build something sustainable. For the first time since her divorce, Maya felt professionally validated in a way that had nothing to do with Julian or Black Tech. Alex had insisted on celebrating with dinner at an expensive San Francisco restaurant. "Look at you," he'd said, beaming with pride. "6 months ago you were crying on your bathroom floor. Now you're saving companies and taking names like some kind of business superhero." "I'm barely breaking even financially," Maya had protested. "David paid me partly in equity. Financially, maybe you're just getting started." Alex had replied, "But emotionally and professionally, you're richer than you've ever been." That confidence lasted exactly 2 weeks. Maya was preparing a presentation for a potential new client when her phone rang with a call that would shatter her fragile sense of security. Maya Chen Rodriguez. "Yes, this is Maya. This is Jennifer Walsh from TechCrunch. I'm working on an investigative story about Black Tech Solutions and some concerning allegations. I was hoping to get your comment." Maya's stomach dropped. "What kind of allegations?" "We've received information suggesting that several of Black Tech's most successful proprietary strategies were actually developed during your marriage to Julian Blackwood, but you've received no compensation or official credit. There are also allegations that Mr. Blackwood has been using your former client list to interfere with your consulting practice." Maya felt familiar panic rising. "I can't comment on any of that. We also have sources indicating that QuickBite was approached by Black Tech representatives just days after your successful restructuring became public. According to sources, Black Tech offered to acquire QuickBite at below market valuation, then withdrew when QuickBite refused to terminate their relationship with you." Maya hung up and immediately called David Kim. "Maya, thank God," David said. "I was about to call you. We lost 3 major restaurant partners this morning, all within an hour. Every single one cited pressure from a larger competitor, but wouldn't give specifics. I think Julian Blackwood is trying to destroy QuickBite because we worked with you." The confirmation hit Maya like a physical blow. Julian wasn't just moving on. He was actively working to destroy any chance Maya had of rebuilding her career. Over the next month, the attacks intensified with surgical precision. 3 potential clients who had expressed serious interest suddenly stopped returning calls. A startup founder who had scheduled consultation meetings canceled at the last minute, mumbling about unforeseen complications. 2 consulting firms that had discussed partnership opportunities went silent. Maya started having panic attacks again, waking up gasping for air as her mind raced through worst-case scenarios. Dr. Hoffman had to increase their sessions back to twice weekly, prescribing anti-anxiety medication that helped with physical symptoms but couldn't touch the psychological damage. The breaking point came at a networking event in San Francisco. Maya was standing near the bar, trying to work up courage to approach biotech founders who might need strategic consulting, when she overheard a conversation that made her blood freeze. "Yeah, Julian Blackwood called me personally," a venture capitalist was saying. "Said his ex-wife was mentally unstable, that she'd been stealing proprietary information from Black Tech and was now using it to compete with them. He strongly advised against working with her." Maya felt the room spinning as the full scope of Julian's character assassination became clear. He was systematically destroying her reputation with specific allegations that would terrify any potential client. She excused herself and rushed to the bathroom, where she locked herself in a stall and cried quietly. When she finally emerged, an elegantly dressed woman was waiting by the sinks with an expression that suggested she'd been there for a while. "I'm Elena Vasquez," the woman said, extending a manicured hand. I couldn't help overhearing that conversation. "I suspect I know exactly why you're hiding in here instead of working the room." Maya tensed, unsure whether this was another trap. "I'm sorry. Do we know each other?" Elena smiled with the warmth of someone who'd seen enough corporate warfare to recognize a fellow survivor. "Not yet, but I think we should." Elena Vasquez turned out to be exactly the kind of powerful ally Maya hadn't dared to hope for. Over coffee the next morning at an understated Palo Alto cafe, Elena revealed herself to be the founder and CEO of Pinnacle Ventures, a boutique consulting firm specializing in high-stakes corporate turnarounds and strategic restructuring. "I've been watching the tech industry destroy talented women for 15 years, Elena said, stirring her black coffee with precise movements. "Men like Julian Blackwood rise to power by standing on the shoulders of women whose contributions they systematically erase, then spend their careers ensuring those women can never pose a threat to the narrative they've constructed." Elena's own story was a masterclass in surviving Silicon Valley's boys' club mentality. She'd started as a junior analyst in the late 90s, back when being a Latina woman in tech meant being one of the only faces like hers in every room. She'd watched countless brilliant women get sidelined, undermined, or simply erased from history as their male colleagues claimed credit for their innovations. "Julian Blackwood is systematically destroying your reputation because he's terrified of you," Elena continued, her dark eyes flashing with controlled anger. "He knows that half of Black Tech's strategic success came from your analytical work, and he's afraid that if you're allowed to succeed independently, people will start asking uncomfortable questions about who really built his empire." The offer Elena made was so generous that Maya initially suspected it might be too good to be true. Elena wanted to bring Maya into Pinnacle Ventures as a senior strategic consultant, working directly on their most challenging and lucrative accounts. The salary was competitive, more than Maya had made at Black Tech, and the client list included companies that would give her the high-profile wins she needed. "What's the catch?" Maya asked, her years with Julian having taught her to be suspicious of generous offers. Elena smiled with genuine warmth. "No catch. Just an opportunity to show the industry what you're really capable of when you're not being overshadowed by someone stealing credit for your work." Maya started at Pinnacle the following Monday, walking into a sleek San Francisco office space that felt like stepping into a different universe from Black Tech's sterile corporate environment. The converted warehouse had exposed brick walls, floor-to-ceiling windows offering stunning bay views, and an open floor plan that encouraged collaboration without oppressive hierarchy. Elena introduced Maya to the rest of the team during a lunch meeting that felt more like a gathering of old friends than corporate orientation. 6 other consultants, all women, all with impressive track records and stories of overcoming professional obstacles. Sarah Kim, a former investment banker blacklisted from Wall Street after reporting sexual harassment. Maria Santos, a brilliant operations specialist systematically excluded from promotions until she started her own practice. "We call ourselves the Fixers," Elena explained as they shared appetizers. "Companies come to us when they're desperate, when traditional consulting firms have failed them. We specialize in the impossible." Maya's first assignment was a deliberate test of her abilities under pressure. Neuralink Therapeutics was a biotech startup that had burned through $30 million over 4 years with absolutely nothing to show for their efforts. 47 employees working on 6 different research projects with no clear connection, no unified vision, and no understanding of how to navigate complex regulatory environments. Maya spent her first 2 weeks simply observing sitting in research meetings and administrative sessions while taking careful notes about organizational dysfunction preventing them from achieving goals. The breakthrough came during a contentious meeting about research priorities when Maya asked a simple question: what specific medical problem are we trying to solve? And how will we know when we've solved it? The room went silent as 47 highly educated people realized they couldn't give a coherent answer. Maya spent the next 8 hours facilitating strategic planning that identified their core competitive advantages and developed a focused business plan that would transform Neuralink from a scattered research lab into a viable medical device company. The restructuring Maya recommended was radical but necessary. She proposed eliminating 4 of 6 research projects, concentrating resources on developing 2 specific products: an early detection system for Alzheimer's disease and targeted therapy for brain tumors. She helped Dr. Chen reorganize research teams around commercial objectives, hire regulatory consultants, and develop partnerships with major medical centers. Within 6 months, Neuralink had secured $15 million in new funding, established partnerships with 3 major hospitals for clinical trials, and received preliminary FDA approval for human testing. The success was so remarkable that Forbes featured Neuralink in a major article about corporate turnarounds, with Maya prominently quoted. "Maya Chen Rodriguez didn't just restructure our business model," Dr. Chen told Forbes. "She helped us understand the difference between scientific research and commercial development, then gave us tools to bridge that gap without compromising our commitment to helping patients." For the first time since her divorce, Maya felt professionally validated in a way that had absolutely nothing to do with Julian or Black Tech. She'd taken a failing company and turned it into a success story using nothing but her own strategic thinking and operational expertise. That feeling lasted exactly 3 days. Maya was working late, preparing a presentation for another potential client, when her phone buzzed with a text that would prove Julian's campaign was far from over. "Interesting how you're taking credit for strategies we developed together at Black Tech. The Neuralink approach bears remarkable resemblance to the biotech analysis framework we created during our Series B planning. Might be worth mentioning to your new boss that your original methodology is actually proprietary intellectual property. J." Maya's hands shook as she forwarded the message to Elena, who called back within minutes. "He's escalating," Elena said. "This isn't just professional competition anymore. Julian is trying to gaslight you into believing you don't deserve your success." "What if he's right?" Maya whispered. "What if I am just recycling strategies we developed together?" Elena's expression hardened. "Maya, I've seen your work for 6 weeks. Your analysis of Neuralink was completely original. He's trying to make you doubt yourself because that's what abusers do when they lose control." Over the next month, Julian's harassment campaign intensified with systematic precision. Anonymous online reviews appeared claiming Maya was difficult to work with and that her recommendations were derivative. Someone with significant resources was investing serious money in destroying Maya's credibility. Worse were the whisper campaigns circulating through Silicon Valley's professional networks. Potential clients who had scheduled meetings suddenly canceled without explanation. Even some of Elena's long-term clients began asking uncomfortable questions about Maya's background. The turning point came on a rainy Thursday evening when a young woman approached Maya in the parking garage. "Excuse me, are you Maya Chen Rodriguez? My name is Jennifer Santos. I work at Black Tech Solutions. I think we need to talk." Jennifer Santos was 26, a junior developer at Black Tech who had been working there for 2 years. She was scared, constantly looking over her shoulder as they sat in a quiet diner in Redwood City. "I could lose my job for this," Jennifer said, her hands shaking as she sipped coffee. "But I can't watch Julian destroy you when I know the truth." Jennifer pulled out a tablet and showed Maya a series of internal Black Tech documents. "These are strategy reports from the past year. Julian's been taking credit for ideas that came from other people. Not just you. current employees too. He's built his entire reputation on other people's work. Maya scrolled through the documents, her anger growing with each page. Strategies she'd developed during their marriage were being presented as Julian's original innovations. Even worse, he was stealing ideas from his own team and passing them off as his genius. "There's more," Jennifer said, showing Maya email threads where Julian explicitly discussed neutralizing Maya's consulting business. He'd contacted her clients, spread false rumors about her mental stability, and had his lawyers send cease and desist letters claiming she was violating non-disclosure agreements that didn't actually exist. "Why are you showing me this?" Maya asked. Jennifer looked down at her hands. "Because he did the same thing to my sister. She used to work at Julian's previous company before Black Tech. When she got pregnant and asked for maternity leave, he fired her and spread rumors that she was unreliable. She couldn't find another job in tech for 2 years. She ended up leaving the industry completely." Maya felt sick. "How many women has he done this to?" "At least 5 that I know of personally. Julian has a pattern. He hires talented women, takes credit for their work, then destroys them when they become inconvenient or ask for recognition." That night, Maya called Elena and Alex for an emergency meeting at her apartment. She showed them Jennifer's evidence while they consumed wine and pizza. "This is it," Elena said, studying the documents. "This is how we take him down. He's not just harassing you. He's engaging in systematic workplace discrimination and possibly illegal business practices." Elena explained her plan. She had connections throughout Silicon Valley, including several investors who had backed Black Tech in early rounds. If they could present a compelling case that Julian was a fraud, those investors might demand an investigation or push for his removal as CEO. "The key is timing," Elena said. "We need to wait for the right moment, when Julian is vulnerable and distracted." That moment came sooner than expected. 3 days later, Maya was scrolling through tech news when she saw the announcement Julian Blackwood and Scarlett Devine were engaged. The proposal had happened at the Miss Universe pageant finale in Miami, broadcast live to millions of viewers worldwide. Maya stared at the photos of Julian on one knee, Scarlett crying with joy, the enormous diamond ring sparkling under stage lights. Her first instinct was heartbreak. This was the grand romantic gesture he'd never given her. But as she looked longer, she felt something else: opportunity. Elena had already been working behind the scenes, using Jennifer's evidence to build a case against Julian. She'd quietly approached 3 of Black Tech's major investors with concerns about the company's leadership and strategic direction. "I have a meeting set up for next week with Marcus Webb from Titan Ventures," Elena told Maya. "He led Black Tech's Series B funding round and has been concerned about their recent performance metrics." The meeting with Marcus Webb took place at Titan Ventures offices in Menlo Park. Maya had prepared extensively, organizing Jennifer's evidence into a compelling presentation that showed clear patterns of intellectual property theft and workplace discrimination. Marcus was a serious man in his 50s who had built his reputation by identifying promising startups and founders who could scale them successfully. He listened to Maya's presentation without interruption, occasionally making notes. When she finished, he was quiet for a long moment. "This is damning," he said finally. "If even half of these allegations are true, Julian Blackwood is a liability to every company he touches. But I have to ask, why should I believe you? You're his ex-wife with obvious reasons to want revenge." Maya had anticipated this question. "Because it's not just my word. I have 5 other women willing to testify about Julian's pattern of behavior. I have internal company documents showing systematic idea theft. And I have a track record of successful consulting work that proves I don't need to lie about my capabilities." Marcus promised to look into their allegations. Within a week, Maya heard through her network that Black Tech's board had called an emergency meeting to discuss leadership concerns. Julian was suddenly canceling public appearances and had hired a crisis management firm. But Maya's celebration was premature. Julian wasn't going down without a fight, and his retaliation would be swift and vicious. Julian's retaliation came from multiple directions at once, coordinated and vicious. It started with a lawsuit. Julian's lawyers filed a civil complaint claiming Maya had violated her divorce agreement by disparaging him to investors and clients. They alleged she had stolen proprietary information from Black Tech and was using it to damage the company's reputation. Maya received the legal papers on a Friday evening while working late at Pinnacle. The lawsuit demanded $2 million in damages and a restraining order preventing her from contacting anyone in Julian's professional network. But the lawsuit was just the beginning. Over the weekend, Maya's consulting business was hit with a coordinated online attack. Fake negative reviews appeared on every platform where Pinnacle had a presence. Anonymous social media accounts spread rumors about Maya's mental health and professional competence. The worst part was that some attacks contained information only Julian could have known. Details about her therapy sessions, her fertility struggles, private moments from their marriage that he was now weaponizing against her. Elena immediately hired lawyers specializing in anti-SLAPP litigation. Marcus Webb provided an affidavit supporting Maya's credibility. Even Jennifer Santos, despite risking her job, agreed to testify about Julian's pattern of stealing credit from employees. The turning point came at a tech industry conference in San Jose. Maya almost didn't attend, afraid of confronting Julian publicly. But Elena convinced her to go. Maya was delivering a presentation about strategic consulting when she noticed Julian enter the back of the room with Scarlett, who looked stunning in a red dress that probably cost more than Maya's monthly rent. Julian's presence was clearly intended to intimidate her. During the Q&A, Julian raised his hand. "Maya, interesting presentation," he said, his voice carrying clearly. "I'm curious about your thoughts on intellectual property protection in consulting relationships. How do you ensure clients that their confidential strategies won't be repurposed for other engagements?" The room went silent. Everyone knew who Julian was, and many had heard rumors about their legal battle. This was a public challenge designed to humiliate Maya. Maya took a deep breath, remembering Elena's coaching. "That's an excellent question, Julian," she said calmly. "Intellectual property protection is crucial in consulting. That's why ethical consultants always ensure their work is original and properly attributed. We don't, for example, take credit for strategies developed by colleagues, employees, or former spouses." A murmur went through the audience. Maya had just publicly suggested that Julian had stolen her work. Before Julian could respond, Maya continued, "In fact, I believe transparency is so important that all my consulting work includes detailed documentation of methodology and source attribution. Clients can always verify that they're getting original strategic thinking, not recycled ideas from previous engagements." The audience was riveted. Julian tried to recover. Of course, sometimes former employees or partners may misremember their contributions to collaborative projects. "Absolutely," Maya agreed. "Memory can be unreliable. That's why documentation is so important. Written records, email threads, version control on shared documents. The digital trail doesn't lie." By now, people were filming with their phones. Julian seemed to realize he was losing the exchange. "Well, I'm sure your new clients appreciate your attention to detail." "They do," Maya said. "Just last week, Marcus Webb from Titan Ventures told me that thorough documentation was one of the things he valued most about working with ethical consultants. Apparently, he's had some bad experiences with founders who couldn't support their claims about strategic innovation." Julian went pale. Maya had just revealed that Marcus Webb was working with her and implicitly questioning Julian's credibility. After the panel, Maya was surrounded by attendees wanting to talk. Several potential clients introduced themselves. 3 journalists asked for interviews. Maya felt energized for the first time in months. But as she was leaving the conference, Scarlett Devine approached her in the parking garage. "Maya, can we talk privately?" Scarlett looked nervous, almost scared. "I know you probably hate me, but I need you to know something. Julian isn't who you think he is, and neither am I." They met the next morning at a quiet coffee shop where Scarlett revealed the shocking truth: her engagement to Julian was completely fake. She showed Maya a photo of herself with a dark-haired woman. "This is my girlfriend, Andrea. We've been together for 3 years. Julian and I have a business arrangement. He funds my pageant career. I play his perfect fiancée. It's all theater." Scarlett was being blackmailed. Julian had compromising photos that could destroy her pageant career and endanger Andrea's job in conservative communities where she worked as a nurse practitioner. "Julian is not just a cheater and credit thief," Scarlett continued. "He's dangerous. He collects leverage on people and uses it to control them. He has files on you too: medical records, therapy notes, photos from your lowest points after the divorce." Maya felt sick. Julian had been systematically planning her destruction since their divorce. "Why are you telling me this?" "Because yesterday at the conference, I watched you stand up to him publicly. For the first time, I saw Julian look scared. If you could fight back, maybe I could too." Scarlett had been documenting Julian's activities for months, gathering evidence of financial fraud, insider trading, and systematic intellectual property theft. "I want to take him down completely," she said. "But I can't do it alone." They agreed to work together, with Scarlett secretly copying Julian's files while Maya built a legal case. Over 3 weeks, Scarlett provided evidence of Julian's criminal enterprise tax evasion, securities fraud, and blackmail schemes targeting dozens of individuals. Elena worked with forensic accountants and cybersecurity experts to verify the evidence. Maya coordinated with Jennifer Santos and other black tech whistleblowers to corroborate Scarlett's information, but Julian was becoming increasingly paranoid and controlling. The breaking point came when Maya received an encrypted message from Scarlett: "Emergency, Julian knows. Need help now. Maya, Elena." And Alex rushed to Julian's penthouse. But they were too late. Scarlett was gone, and Julian was ready for them. Maya, Elena, and Alex sat in Julian's living room, the same penthouse Maya had once called home. Julian paced behind his leather sofa like a predator circling prey, while 2 men in expensive suits flanked the doorway. Maya realized these weren't just security. They had the bearing of federal agents. "I have to admit, Maya, I seriously underestimated you," Julian said, his voice eerily calm. "When I filed for divorce, I thought you'd have a brief breakdown, maybe write some bitter blog posts, then fade into suburban obscurity. I never imagined you'd be smart enough or stubborn enough to actually fight back." "Where's Scarlett?" Maya demanded. Julian smiled coldly. "Scarlett is fine. She's probably halfway to Austin by now, reunited with her girlfriend. I decided our business arrangement had run its course." Elena leaned forward. "Julian, we have evidence of everything: the fraud, the blackmail, the stolen intellectual property. It's over." "Is it?" Julian pulled out his phone, showing them surveillance footage of Maya's meetings with Marcus Webb. "I've been monitoring all of you for weeks. I know about your little investigation. I know about the evidence you think you've gathered." He swiped to another screen. "I also know that Maya has been struggling with severe depression and anxiety since our divorce, that she's been taking medication for panic attacks, that her therapist has documented concerns about her psychological stability." Maya's stomach dropped. You can't use my medical information against me. Can I, Maya? You've spent months building a conspiracy theory about me based on falsified documents provided by a mentally unstable beauty queen. When this goes to court, who do you think the jury will believe, a successful CEO with a spotless reputation or a bitter ex-wife having a psychological breakdown? Alex started to stand, but one of Julian's men moved closer. The threat was clear. Here's what's going to happen. Julian continued. Elena, you're going to destroy any evidence you've collected and cease all contact with my clients and investors. Maya, you're going to sign a comprehensive non-disclosure agreement and close your consulting business. And if we refuse, Elena asked. Julian's smile widened. Then Maya's complete medical and psychological history becomes public. I also have evidence that Maya has been stalking me and Scarlett, violating restraining orders from our divorce settlement. Maya felt the room spinning. I never stalked you. There are no restraining orders. There will be by tomorrow morning. I have witnesses who will testify that you've been harassing us for months. The evidence is quite compelling, especially when combined with your documented mental health issues. For a moment, Maya felt the same helpless despair from their marriage. But something had changed in her over the past year. She wasn't the broken woman who had signed divorce papers in this same room. You're right about one thing. Julian, Maya said, standing slowly. I am different from the woman you married. I'm stronger, smarter, and I'm not afraid of you anymore. Julian's confident expression flickered. Maya continued. You want to make this about credibility. Let's talk about credibility. Elena Vasquez has 15 years of reputation in this industry. Marcus Webb has backed dozens of successful companies. Jennifer Santos has documentation of every stolen idea, every manipulated employee. None of that matters if you're not competent to testify, Julian said. But I am competent. My therapist will confirm that I've made remarkable progress. My clients will testify that my work has been consistently excellent. But most importantly, Scarlett documented everything before she left town, and she made sure that evidence was in the hands of people you can't intimidate or buy. Julian's face went pale. You're bluffing. Elena pulled out her phone. FBI Special Agent Rodriguez, this is Elena Vasquez. We're ready to make that statement now. Julian lunged for Elena's phone, but his security men stepped back. They were federal agents. Julian Blackwood, one said, producing handcuffs. You're under arrest for securities fraud, wire fraud, extortion, and violation of federal computer crime statutes. As the agents read Julian his rights, he stared at Maya with undisguised hatred. This isn't over. I'll destroy you from prison if I have to. No, Maya said calmly. It is over. You have no power anymore. 6 months later, Maya stood in the witness box of Federal District Court in San Francisco, facing a packed courtroom that included some of the most influential figures in Silicon Valley. Julian's trial had become the biggest white-collar crime story of the year, exposing a web of corruption that reached far beyond one man's criminal enterprise. Maya testified calmly about Julian's systematic psychological and economic abuse. When defense attorneys attacked her credibility, she was prepared with comprehensive evidence and medical records showing her recovery and professional success. Scarlett testified via secure video link from witness protection, methodically walking the jury through Julian's criminal enterprise. Julian Blackwood is not a brilliant entrepreneur, she said. He's a criminal who built his empire by stealing other people's work and destroying anyone who threatened to expose his lies. The trial lasted 6 weeks. Julian's defense portrayed him as a successful businessman being destroyed by false allegations from unstable ex-employees and a bitter ex-wife. But the evidence was overwhelming: financial records showing systematic fraud, digital forensics revealing surveillance operations, recorded conversations capturing him discussing criminal activities. The jury deliberated less than 8 hours before returning guilty verdicts on all 14 federal charges. Julian was sentenced to 12 years in federal prison without parole, along with forfeiture of all assets connected to his criminal enterprise. Black Tech Solutions was dissolved, its legitimate assets distributed to defrauded investors and victimized employees. 1 year after Julian's conviction, Maya addressed 1,500 women at Stanford's Women in Technology Summit. Phoenix Strategic had grown beyond her wildest expectations, becoming one of the most successful consulting practices on the West Coast. When I was married to Julian Blackwood, he told me my ideas were too small for his vision. Maya began. Last month, Phoenix Strategic completed our largest engagement ever, a $50 million restructuring project. We've helped create over 800 jobs and generated more than $200 million in additional revenue for our clients. She outlined their broader achievements. We've also helped 43 women leave abusive work situations. We've provided pro bono consulting to 17 female-founded startups. We've created a legal defense fund that has supported 68 women fighting workplace discrimination. The most important lesson I want to share is this: your abuser's limitations are not your limitations. Julian's failure of imagination became my liberation. After her speech, young women approached with their own stories. Maya introduced them to Phoenix Strategic's Whistleblower Protection Program, explaining how they provided legal counsel, documentation assistance, and career transition support. That evening, Maya announced Phoenix Strategic's international expansion, offices in London, Toronto, and Singapore, plus a nonprofit arm providing free services to women who couldn't afford legal representation. That night, working on her memoir, Phoenix Rising, Maya reflected on her journey from devastation to triumph. The book was already a bestseller with translation rights sold in 12 countries. Her phone rang with a collect call from federal prison. After hesitating, Maya accepted. Maya. Julian's voice came through, smaller than she remembered. I wanted to apologize, not because I want anything, but because I understand what I did was wrong. What you've built is more impressive than anything I ever accomplished, and it's real. Maya felt tired compassion for the man who had been her partner and then her destroyer. Julian, I forgive you, not because you deserve it, but because carrying anger was holding me back from helping other women who are going through what I went through. Thank you, Julian whispered. The woman I married was extraordinary. The woman you've become is unstoppable. After hanging up, Maya finished her memoir's final paragraph. Julian Blackwood tried to make me disappear, but instead, he made me unforgettable every day. I wake up grateful for the woman I became after he tried to destroy the woman I was. Sometimes the greatest gift your enemy can give you is underestimating your capacity to rise. Maya closed her laptop and turned off the lights. Tomorrow, she would fly to Davos for the World Economic Forum, sharing Phoenix Strategic's methodology with global business leaders and potentially establishing partnerships with international organizations. Phoenix Strategic now operated in 15 countries, employing over 300 people and serving as a model for ethical business practices worldwide. Maya had been recognized as one of Time magazine's most influential people, serving on multiple boards working to eliminate workplace abuse. The women Julian had tried to destroy were all thriving. Jennifer Santos led a successful employee-owned cooperative that emerged from Black Tech's restructuring. Scarlett had married Andrea and become a full-time advocate for LGBTQ rights in professional sports. Elena had become Maya's business partner in transforming corporate culture globally. Their legal defense fund had grown to over $5 million, supporting hundreds of women fighting workplace discrimination. Maya's memoir had been translated into 37 languages and adapted into an award-winning documentary that continued inspiring women worldwide. Most importantly, Maya realized that Julian's acknowledgement of her success didn't change how she felt about herself. His approval had once been the most important thing in her world, but now it was simply irrelevant to her sense of worth and purpose. Outside her window, the city stretched toward the horizon, full of infinite possibilities and women discovering their own power. Maya smiled. Knowing Phoenix Strategic's work would continue helping future generations realize they didn't need anyone's permission to be brilliant and transformative. The Phoenix had not just risen. She had learned to fly and was teaching others to spread their wings and soar toward futures that no abuser could ever limit or control. Maya's story was complete, but it was also just the beginning of a larger movement ensuring that Julian's legacy would not be the empire he built through exploitation, but the unstoppable force for good that emerged from his attempts to destroy the woman who ultimately proved stronger than his worst intentions. Maya Chen Rodriguez had not just survived Julian Blackwood's attempts to destroy her, she had transformed that destruction into creation, that pain into purpose, and that betrayal into a beacon of hope for women everywhere who refused to accept that someone else's limitations could define their potential.